The Return of Wally West. Okay, you might have heard me talk about this before. A little bit of backstory. Who is Wally West, or rather, who was Wally West? Wally West was the Flash. Now, there have been several Flashes in the history of DC Comics, and you know who the Flash is. He's the guy in the red jumpsuit with the yellow lightning bolt on his chest who runs fast. That's his main power. He's a really fast guy. The most iconic version of the character was introduced in 1956. Barry Allen. He defined the look of the character. He made with the jumpsuit. When you think of the Flash, you think of the costume that was popularized by the character Barry Allen in the Silver Age of superheroes. Now, as I understand it, I never really followed the character, but I'm pretty sure he didn't have much of a personality beyond just being a stand-up guy, as many superheroes were back then. I think I read somewhere that he was a Republican. I don't know. He's not as defined as, say, Bruce Wayne or Clark Kent or Spider-Man. But that's neither here nor there. I only say this to illustrate how much better Wally West was. And this isn't an opinion, all right? This is not a personal opinion. Wally West was his kid's sidekick at first. That's how the character Wally West began. He was the Robin to Barry Allen's Batman. Now, how did he come into being? It's kind of a funny story, actually. Wally West was a young devotee of the Flash, and one day, while he was visiting the Flash's home city with his Aunt Iris, who was, I believe, a romantic interest of Barry Allen, Barry Allen decided to treat the kid by showing up in costume and explaining his origin. So he brought him to the science lab. The science lab was where Barry Allen gained his powers. He's a police scientist, and he was minding the chemicals when a freak bolt of lightning came through the window and bathed him in electrified compounds. And that's how he gained his powers. By sheer coincidence, as he's showing the kid around the police lab, another bolt of lightning comes through the window and hits the kid and gives him Flash superpowers. Just sheer dumb luck. Isn't that the best origin story ever? Must have been fate. Well, anyway, from that point on, Wally West was Kid Flash, and he had many adventures. He became a founding member of the Teen Titans, which was a breakout superhero book, sort of a landmark work for its time. Now, what really sets Wally West apart from other sidekicks is that he actually did go on to fill his mentor's shoes. Barry Allen gave his life in one of the first big reboots of DC Comics. I mean, nowadays, those things come and go. They're like seasonal migrations. But this was the first time it was a big deal. DC Comics decided to reboot their continuity. They made it a huge deal, a cosmic battle full of Sturm und Drang with godlike beings reshaping the universe. And at one point, Barry Allen heroically sacrificed himself. And it wasn't ambiguous. He turned into a skeleton. He disintegrated, I believe. And this inspired Wally West, who was a sort of a grown person by this time. He had muscle definition. So he could put on the Flash costume, and he became the Flash. And this was back when reboots had integrity. And he stayed the Flash. This wasn't like when Dick Grayson became Batman, and Batman just came back a year later and took back the costume. No, Wally West was the Flash for decades. Like from 1986 until just recently, Wally West was the Flash. He was the Flash that I recognized, that I grew up with. I didn't read much of his comics, but what I did read, it was Wally West as the Flash. And when I say that he was better than Barry Allen, this isn't personal opinion. It was said many times in the comics that he had actually surpassed his mentor in many ways. He was faster. He, well, from a storytelling point of view, he was a more modern take on a superhero character, which means that he did have more of a defined personality, I believe. I'm not the authority on this subject, because I never really followed the character that closely, but I respected him. I respected that there was this character who actually had progression, who changed from this into this. And it was great, you know. I really liked him as the Flash, or at least I liked him better than Barry Allen, whose most noteworthy trait was that he died. Now, you might think that nobody really cared about Barry Allen all that much. You might not think that, but it's the truth. Nobody really cared about Barry Allen all that much. If you're a fan of Barry Allen, that's fine. You know, it's great, good for you. But the fact of the matter is, I think I can safely say that nobody was clamoring for the return of Barry Allen, except for a few people behind the scenes at DC Comics who wanted the Flash that they had when they were kids. The true Flash, I guess. So yeah, they done did it. They brought him back to life. One of the most heroic and inspiring deaths in comics. Because nothing is sacred. DC Comics has never had a dramatic moment they couldn't wipe their asses with later. Sometimes it seems like their whole MO these days is just to make things that we enjoy, make things that we love, so they can destroy them. We liked Cassandra Cain, they got rid of her. We liked Stephanie Brown, they got rid of her. We liked Leanne Harper, they got rid of her. We liked the Secret Six, they got rid of her. We liked Amanda Waller's gut, they got rid of it. We liked Jaime Reyes, is that the correct pronunciation? I've never heard it said out loud. Jaime? Yeah, he's pronounced Jaime. Yeah, we liked that he had a healthy family life. Jaime Reyes, he's the new Blue Beetle, and his whole family knew that he was a superhero, and they were supportive of him. Well, they chucked that out the window. Now he has to keep it a secret from his family because I guess they wanted to be more like Spider-Man or something. I don't know. I don't care. I'm disgusted by DC Comics. I'm disgusted by myself not knowing how to pronounce his name. Jaime? Jaime? Jaime. We liked Leanne Harper. She was such a cute little kid, so they killed her, and then they wiped her out of continuity. We liked Barbara Gordon being Oracle, so they made her Batgirl again. We liked Superman's underwear. Well, I did. Sounds weird to say. Anyway, I'm getting off track. What brought all this on? The return of Wally West. You might think that sounds hopeful, but okay. They brought Barry Allen back to life. Now, where does this put Wally West, who was the Flash at the time that they brought Barry Allen? Because they've got two Flashes. Well, you know, they could probably deal with that. At one point, Batman decided to start a whole corporation of Batmen, so they could deal with having a couple of different Flashes around. Now, by this point in Wally West's period of history, he was a veteran superhero. He'd been doing this for years. He had a wife and kids. He had two little kid superheroes that he was training to be superheroes. I thought it was kind of cute. Then Barry Allen shows up, and one of the first things that Barry Allen does after coming back to life, I don't know how he did, I don't care, he does the stupidest thing that any time traveler can do, because the Flash can time travel. He runs really fast. He goes back in time. Barry Allen decides to go back in time and do something about his mother's death, which I didn't know that was ever a thing for him. I don't know why he didn't try doing it before, but he tries doing it now, and it screws up the timeline. And that's the catalyst for the New 52, sort of. Actually, there's this whole storyline about how another alternate universe was created by him meddling in the past, and so he tried to fix things, and it was just on his way back from that adventure. In a 2-page spread, one of DC Comics' several dozen mysterious omnipresents and cosmic beings decided to step in and use Barry Allen running through time as some kind of mechanism for making the universe just how the writers of DC Comics wanted it to be. And as part of this reboot, one of the most painful parts of this reboot, and as you can tell, this reboot hit me like a slap to the face. Lots and lots of popular characters were just flushed down the crapper, and Wally West was one of them. In the new continuity, he had never been the Flash. Yeah, his wife and kids, they just never happened. His kids were wiped out of existence. Nobody cares. Why should anyone care? They never existed, so why should anybody care about something that never happened, right? And I took that really personally. These characters, the whole point of comics, of any storytelling genre, is that we are meant to care about the characters. We invest in them. We give them life in our imaginations. How then are we to be expected to just forget them completely? Well, apparently that was DC's angle. You know, they just sort of, like abusive parents, they turned their backs on the characters that they had made and pretended that they weren't there. Wally West and everything he'd ever done is just gone. And Wally West had it worse than most, actually, because he was a legacy character by this point. He had had a career, a good career. He had been a staple of DC Comics for a long time. Now, whenever a superhero dies in DC Comics, they make a big damn deal about it. They throw him a funeral. All his superhero buddies get together and they talk about him and how great he was and his triumphs and defeat and what kind of difference he made. And you know what usually winds up happening? They pop up good as new a year or two later, having come back to life. Wally West didn't get a final storyline. He didn't get an end to his story. He did not get a climactic final showdown with some great supervillain. He didn't get a splash page commemorating everything he'd done. No one said anything about his career because none of it mattered. None of it mattered. With the new continuity, none of it happened. It was all utterly pointless. Everything he had done. Wally West suffered the cruelest fate that a superhero can possibly get. Literally a fate worse than death. He was written off so callously. No gold watch. Nothing. And now he doesn't even have an empty space to fill. Because recently, Flash Annual number 3 was touted as showcasing the return of Wally West, and this got a lot of people excited. It sounded like maybe we were getting him back, and I was kind of chuffed, you know. I said, well, he's not going to have 20 odd years of history that he did have, but at least we'll be having the character back in some way, shape, or form. Well, I should have hoped for a bit more definition than that. This is not the return of Wally West, any more than Christian Bale was the return of Adam West. In Flash Annual number 3, and I'm not going to review the comic because I've heard that it's quite good. I'm reviewing what happens in the comic. He's a 12-year-old in a hoodie. He's caught spraying graffiti on a wall. This is not Wally West. It's a kid who happens to be named Wally West. It's not the same character. Don't even pretend that it's the same character, because it's not, okay? I mean, this isn't the standard parallel universe rigmarole where someone is just raised in different circumstances. No, this kid is clearly born decades after the previous Wally West, and he has no resemblance physically whatsoever to the old Wally West either. I mean, Wally West was he was a redhead. He was one of the few ginger superheroes. He had a fiery mane of hair. Well, this kid, he's black-haired. I've heard him described as biracial. Now, I have heard that his appearance has been altered to fall in line with the upcoming TV show, which will feature Wally West, played by a kid who looks similar to what we see here. So, yeah. Now, not only has Wally West lost everything, his entire history, And don't tell me that you can just go back and read the books. It's not like the books stopped existing. Yeah. I've heard that, okay? I appreciate where you're coming from, but that doesn't fly with me, alright? Continuity matters to me. I care, alright? Because whenever I read those old books, I like to imagine that they're leading to something. You see how passionate I am about this? Yeah, well, I'm sorry. I know I have other things that I should care about, but damn it, I am a cartoonist. I make characters. If I invested time and effort into creating Zebra Girl for a comics company, and after 20 years of Zebra Girl being in the comics company, they turned around, rebooted it, and said that none of it ever happened, and she didn't get anything, any kind of acknowledgement whatsoever, I'd be upset. So this is me lighting a torch for Wally West, the old Wally West. The return of Wally West. This isn't the return of Wally West. It's a new character. They just made a new character. That's fine. I mean, he might be a good character. This new Wally West, he might be a very well-rounded character. Good, fine, but don't pretend that it's the same character. Like I said, there's no climactic final battle, no tribute to his epic career, no assurance that anything he did actually mattered in the face of this reboot. No gold watch, no handshakes. Wally West got nothing. I mean, he literally got nothing because everything he did was just made into nothing. Most superheroes get something in their final issue. Superheroes who aren't even all that well known, when they get to their final issue, at least they get the end, you know, just something. You know, a tip of the hat to the journey that was taken. But I guess I care more than the DC editors or whoever I have to blame. I don't know how the power structure works. What we've got here is a double-edged sword, all right? On the one hand, if we consider this new Wally West to be somehow the same Wally West, which is pretty big somehow, I don't see it. But if you want to say that he's the reincarnation of Wally West, then it sucks, because he's been demoted back to sidekick status. Everything he did, his wife and kids are... What made the character so great was that he had stepped beyond being that sidekick. That he had taken over the role. Now he's the Kid Flash again? Damn it, DC! And on the other hand, if you want to say that this is a new character, then it sucks, because we've been cheated out of the return of the Wally West we were waiting for. I mean, he's even less likely to show up now because his space has been filled. Does anyone here remember The Adventures of Pete and Pete? It was one of Nickelodeon's few live-action television shows, and by most accounts, it was the best. It was funny and whimsical and wise. It was about these two suburban kids, two brothers named Pete, both named Pete, and in their town they had a resident superhero. It's Artie, the strongest man in the world. You remember. If you saw the show, you know who I'm talking about. But in one of the episodes, when Artie was set to face some of the local supervillains, one of the Petes mused on the nature of supervillains. As he put it, the difference between a regular villain and a supervillain is that a supervillain won't stop until he's not only destroyed the hero, but his legend as well. So what does that make DC Comics? Because what else have they done? Wally West, he doesn't have a legend anymore. The legend he'd made, everything he'd done, swept under the rug. And I just think that's kind of sad. You can say I'm making a mountain out of a molehill. Maybe I am. But you know what? Those molehills kind of matter. Wally West was the Flash for 20 years. People bought his comics, stayed invested in the storylines. But in a way, I guess that's what happened to every superhero during the recent reboot. They've all been replaced by new people. They aren't the same. They don't have the same memories. They haven't had the same experiences. Why didn't DC Comics just put the new 52 in a new universe? One of the trademarks of the old continuity was that there were 52 parallel universes. Why didn't they take advantage of that? Why did they have to absolutely destroy the old continuity to make this new continuity? They had an easy out. They could have just put all this in a new universe and said that the old continuity still existed in some other universe. Why do they have to just screw over everything that we had? Is it more dramatic that way? God. All I can give Barry Allen is the occasional comic strip and a rant on YouTube. But I just hope that people appreciate that this is a bit of a tragedy. He was a great character, you know? And I'm not even one of his biggest fans. Like I said, I'm not in a position to speak with much authority on this because I didn't follow his series all that much. I was not a fan of The Flash. I mean, I liked The Flash. I thought he was a very aesthetically attractive superhero, but I was not a big fan of his. I didn't dislike him, but I didn't follow his stories. But even so, I appreciate how unfortunate it is that a character who existed, who had so much for so long, no fictional character deserves this. No fictional character deserves to just vanish like a fart in the wind. Alright? That's what I'm saying. He just deserved something. I just want something. Some homage to the old Wally West. Some acknowledgement. Some period at the end of his sentence. You know? Because this new Wally West, the return of Wally West, it's nothing of the kind. This kid, he's just a new character. He's taken his name. And that's not good enough. That's not good enough. You can't say that it's the return of Wally West. Return of Wally West, my ass. You know, say what you will about Marvel Comics. When Samuel L. Jackson became the more popular version of Nick Fury, and in case you didn't know, Nick Fury used to be a different character. If you're only familiar with Samuel L. Jackson playing the character of Nick Fury, in the comics, for decades and decades and decades, since World War II, Nick Fury was a different guy. He was a cigar-chomping, Caucasian guy with a white stripe in his hair. Marvel loves guys with white stripes in their hair. But then Samuel L. Jackson came along with his interpretation of the character, and actually that version of him existed in the comics first, based on Samuel L. Jackson, but that version of the character, especially when he began actually being played by Samuel L. Jackson, he took off, and Marvel decided to actually replace the old version of Nick Fury with a new version based on Samuel L. Jackson, this version of Nick Fury. Say what you will about Marvel, they had a storyline where they introduced the new version of Nick Fury as a new Nick Fury. They didn't say that this is the same Nick Fury. They actually gave him a storyline where they brought in a new Nick Fury. They didn't just shunt the old Nick Fury into oblivion and say that this is Nick Fury. No. They had the two characters in the same storyline, sort of a passing of the torch. You know? I once read a bit of a Flash story where where one of the Flashes, and this was after a new Flash had come in. One of the younger sidekicks had started being the Flash, just like Wally West had done once upon a time. And, well, that didn't last, but I heard, and I think it was Wally West who actually said this, that this is how the Flashes work. Like runners in a marathon, they pass the torch to future generations. And I thought that was great. That was a great analogy. So much for passing the torch.